Overwatch players are never going to be happy. Let's have a look. I have made plenty of videos in the last year about the state of Overwatch. If you have been following me for a while, you know that I personally think that Overwatch is in the best spot it's ever been. And that includes Overwatch 1. However, I have to add, that was a very different time. 2016. Oh boy. It's almost 10 years ago at this point. What Blizzard did at that time to popularize the genre in one fell swoop and basically set the game community ablaze with a game that was built on top of the remains of a failed project, that is something they can never repeat. They cannot go back to that. It was a unique time. However, if you look at the content that is currently in Overwatch 2, it is in a better spot than the IP has ever been. I know for a fact that some of you are not going to agree, and that is perfectly fine. For one, like I said, it's my opinion, and second, this community is always going to be divided. Well, look, the gaming community in general is always going to be divided. It has become very rare that any game gets universal praise and that it manages to hold on to that praise for longer than 3 weeks. Even big hits like Battlefield 6 that we had recently, which was very popular at launch, is now facing some criticism. Those numbers are dropping. Nothing dramatically, but I don't think it's going to get any easier in the coming years. It becomes increasingly more difficult to release a game that hits, let's say, at least 90 on Metacritic. And that's because we as gamers are simply not that easy to please. We are very divided, in some cases even polarized. And there just is so much content out there that we can choose between. And the same goes for the Overwatch community specifically. Anytime I drop a bit of news on Overwatch, on a new feature or something that was added, removed, my comments get flooded by very different comments, very diverse comments. For instance, when they reverted back to best out of 7 in competitive stadium last week, I found it very interesting to read all of your comments on why some of you thought it was a very good thing while others thought it was extremely bad. There were a few of you that put in a lot of effort in formulating these opinions. Now, generally, the complainers tend to post a little more than other players do. However, in this community, the people that actually enjoy an update, that enjoy a change, that agree with a change, tend to speak up more often than in other games. And I think that is because we as Overwatch players, among some other communities, are very passionate about the game that we play. But that had me also think, which is a rare thing to happen. A self-burn. Beautiful. For the Overwatch team, Team 4, it has become extremely difficult to figure out what we as a community actually want. See, in the last 2 years, Team 4 has definitely opened up. They have evolved into this co-creational vibe, idea, where they listen to our feedback and they adjust extremely fast. In some cases, I've seen them pivot in a matter of days, and this was impossible over a year ago. Blizzard has historically always been slow. One of the slowest developers in the whole of the gaming industry. That's what the reputation was. The thing is, we tend to be so divided that it must be very difficult for them to figure out what the community wants exactly. And that is because it's made up out of millions of players that each have their own experience, their own relationship with Overwatch, their own demands, and their own opinions. And as we just discussed, those opinions can be very different. So I guess they just have to kind of try and gauge what the most popular opinion is, or the most popular direction. They take into account their own opinion as professionals, which is based off their personal experience, but also all of the data that they have been gathering, while keeping the global vision for Overwatch as a game in mind. Based on all of that, they have to make a call. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in their position, because that call is going to make a certain percentage of the community very happy, but at the same time, it's also going to piss off a whole other group of people. That is simply the reality right now, building, managing, running, and playing a game that is enjoyed and played by millions of people all over the world. The last little bit of that sentence is very important. It makes things extra difficult because we Europeans play Overwatch very differently from what the people in North America do. And both of us played very differently from players in Asia. Each of these regions have their playstyles, their habits, but also things that tie into their personal culture. On top of that, all of these million players are made out of a huge group of casual players that boot up the game once every few weeks to play with friends. Then there's like a huge middle section of more casual but loyal fans, and a small slice of ambitious high-level players. Some of them do it on a professional level. And again, each of these groups has their own demands, their own habits, their own playstyles, and their own opinions. In other words, Team 4 is trying to make a puzzle with over 4,000 pieces. But in that box, there's actually pieces for 3.5 other puzzles. While the box art that should guide you is actually a map of the London subway, the tube. They're so screwed. Good luck. But nah, seriously, how can they fix this? They can't. There's no way. This is just how it is and how it's going to be. They'll take a big swing, they will listen, they will adjust, and they will still get yelled at. Luckily, they know. They know they're not going back to that general praise that we saw 10 years ago. But they're going to do their utmost best to make this the best it can be under these circumstances. And not for me, not for you, but basically for all of us. And sometimes you'll be disappointed by some of the choices they make. I'll be disappointed by some of the choices they make, like the drafting. Really don't like it. But look, I either deal with it or I stop playing competitive stadium. And all the while I'll be giving my feedback. I'll let them know through my videos, just like you guys do in my comments. And I'm pretty sure that some of the people at Blizzard read my comments. They don't watch my videos though, they just completely skip them. But look, I know that there's people that like the draft thing, so it's most likely not going anywhere. Does that stop me from enjoying Overwatch? Hell no. Like I said, this game is not made for me. It's made for all of us. We need to compromise. And once we all understand that, we'll get a lot less angry and in some cases fearful about some of the changes that they do. Which doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. You're totally entitled to an opinion. Just don't get too worked up. So, as I said in the title, while we'll never be happy about Overwatch again, at least as a group altogether, most of us will still play it and actually enjoy it. In other words, I just made a, 6 to 10 minute video that is trying to tell you to chill. That's it. Share your opinion, but don't take it too serious. Chill. Anyways, what is the main thing you get worked up about in Overwatch? Let me know in the comments, so come tell me during my streams over on twitch.tv/DeemziesTV. See you there. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my patrons and YouTube members. You too can become a member over on patreon.com/theomnicpost and right here on YouTube to unlock exclusive rewards. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.